Welcome to video 5. This is the shading tip, also nicknamed the leaf tip because of its shape. It has a nice sharp point at the end. It's fairly flat, and that's very useful for a lot of things. For example, lines. This tip is really good at making straight lines. You do have to hold it just right. Again, I'm not trying to make these pretty. I'm trying to see what's the easiest and best use for each tip. When you turn it upside down and you use that point, that really sharp point, you get some really nice, even, fine dots. They don't get very big, so if you want something bigger, I definitely use something like the flow tip, but this one is really good for stippling and pointillism. And for curves, I continued to use this sharp point. I found that it took those turns really easily, and you get a really nice fine line that way. For the circles, I again stuck with that sharp point because there was so much control on the curves. And now that said, it is easier to control some of the other tips more than it is to control this one because it is so fine. So this is probably one of those things that will take a little more practice. Now because it did so well with the curves, you can guess it's going to do pretty well with the curved lettering too. It does take a lot of control though. The block lettering, it's better for outlining, but it's really not great for filling in. I found that it was very thin, a little hard to do, but could be a really cool look if you want to go for that. If you do some larger block letterings, it might be better to use the shading part of the shading tip rather than this sharp edge. But for the small space that I was doing, the sharp point really was the best option. And the whole reason that this point is named the shading point is because that is what it's excellent at most. It is really good at filling in dark spaces, large areas. Because of that really fine tip, it can also get into tiny little areas that you need to shade in or make a fine gradient. It's a fabulous tool for that. So overall, here's how the shading point did in my opinion. I think lines were okay. Dots, when they're fine, are great. The curves take some practice, but I do think actually it did really well with the circles and pretty well with the lettering, and I love it for shading. And that's it for the shading point. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Oh, and the bell so you get notified of future videos.